Stroll's struggles refused to let up, and Montreal was yet another painful reminder. While Fernando Alonso continues to rack up points and carry Aston Martin forward, Lance seems completely disconnected from the car. Yes, he's bagged 14 of the team's 22 points this season, but the trajectory is clear, and it's not encouraging. He's acknowledged the slump himself. But here's the burning question. Could we be approaching the moment where Lawrence Stroll makes the unthinkable call to drop his own son from the team? If so, who's next in line to take over that seat come 2026? Let's not sugarcoat it. Lance Stroll is becoming a problem, not just for Aston Martin, but for the competitive integrity of the grid. His recent performances have been erratic, and even his return from wrist surgery hasn't sparked the revival fans hoped for. There's a decision looming in the background, and it's one the team can't afford to delay any longer. Is Stroll still the driver to bet on in a future-focused Aston Martin project? Meanwhile, Alonso is doing what Alonso does, adapting, delivering, and dragging results out of the car. In contrast, Stroll sounds like a man lost in his own cockpit. His comment, "The car just works better for him, not me," is less a technical critique and more a cry of confusion, and that might be the most worrying part. If he doesn't know how to fix it, how can the team? Stroll didn't mince words when opening up about the AMR24's issues. "We are slow, and I think that will also be the case in Austria, because the car has characteristics that never improve. The problems that limit my driving don't change. It's not going to get better. I don't really feel any change in the car. Maybe Fernando feels something because he's getting good results. I don't know. I was just very slow." That's not a frustrated soundbite. That's brutal honesty. And it says more about where Lance Stroll's head is than any lap time ever could. The reality, it's damning. Stroll is effectively admitting defeat, not just for Austria, but for the foreseeable future. He sees no light at the end of the tunnel. And that speaks to one of two possibilities. Either he genuinely can't adapt to the car, like so many second drivers have failed to do in high-pressure teams. Red Bull comes to mind. Or he doesn't care enough to force the issue, safe in the knowledge that his seat is protected by blood, not performance. Honestly, the second explanation feels more plausible. When Lance wants to, he can deliver, as the 14 points prove. But when he's off, he's way off. The inconsistency is jarring, and it's sapping Aston Martin of their competitive bite. Add in his recent outbursts and visible frustration, and it's clear the internal pressure is boiling over. Right now, Aston Martin might as well be Fernando Alonso racing. One car is scoring, the other is sinking. And while Lance does have more points than Alonso at the moment, the form book is tilting quickly. Alonso's calm, composed recovery in recent weekends, not to mention his quiet jab that scoring points has become a habit again, hints at who's rising and who's unraveling. If Aston Martin want to avoid another slide down the constructors' ladder, they'll need to answer a hard question. How long can they afford to keep running a team that's effectively operating at 50% power? Fernando Alonso didn't just celebrate his recent run of points. He offered a reality check too. "It seems like a habit to be in the points now," he said, "but it's because of good qualifying. If we weren't 6th on the grid, we wouldn't be in the points." He pointed out how cars like the Williams and Haas were surprisingly strong, with even Hülkenberg putting up a fight. The implication, if you're not starting high up, you're not finishing in the points, and that might be his subtle way of saying, put me in Lance's shoes and even I'd struggle. But here's the problem. Alonso's not in Lance's shoes, and the younger Stroll is under-delivering even by that context. Out in Q1 during his home race, out again in Q2 in Barcelona, breaking car parts, that doesn't scream motivated or hungry. If anything, it hints at a driver who may have already checked out mentally. And maybe those off-season rally tests weren't just a fun hobby, they might have been a sneak peek into where Stroll's real interest lies. And then there's the George Russell factor. Sound ridiculous? Maybe not. While it might feel like media speculation, the timing is intriguing. Russell hasn't signed a Mercedes extension yet, and he's openly acknowledged that his future with the team isn't 100% locked in. In his own words, "I'm loyal to Mercedes, but there haven't been any hard feelings about rumours swirling around Max Verstappen." That's not exactly a door slam on other opportunities, especially if Mercedes finds itself in a tug-of-war for Verstappen's signature. And if Max does join the Silver Arrows, that leaves a very talented George Russell without a seat, and guess who's been throwing everything at landing a big-name star? Aston Martin. They wanted Verstappen, and that's no secret. But if he slips away, Russell suddenly becomes their next best bet, not just in terms of performance, but as a marquee name to carry the project forward. Let's be real though, Lawrence Stroll's dream isn't to sideline his son. His ideal scenario? Replace Alonso in 2026 and keep the family name on the grid with Lance in tow. But that's where reality bites. Top drivers don't hang around waiting for family politics to sort themselves out. If Russell's available, he won't wait for Lawrence to wrestle with nepotism. He'll sign where the ambition matches his talent. And right now, that might just be Aston Martin. In short, the walls are closing in. Lance is underperforming, Alonso is realistic about the team's limitations, and the driver market is heating up. If Stroll Sr. wants to be taken seriously as a team boss, some brutally tough calls might be just around the corner. At this point, Aston Martin's vision couldn't be clearer. The message to potential drivers is simple. Here's the dream, here's the team, here's Adrian Newey. The recruitment pitch practically writes itself. Come and build something iconic with the greatest designer in Formula One history. It's an irresistible proposal. But despite all this ambition and heavy artillery, there's one anchor weighing it all down. Lance Stroll. Let's be fair. Yes, he's scored points this year, but the pattern is unmistakable. His form is sliding, and his attitude even worse. Unless something radically changes, we're headed toward another season of Lance collecting scraps while Aston Martin drifts further away from its lofty aspirations. And while it might feel like his seat is ironclad thanks to family ties, there's a bigger truth creeping in. Lance isn't untouchable anymore. Why? Because Aston Martin isn't just Lawrence Stroll's pet project anymore. It's evolving into a serious factory outfit, and real power is entering the room. Adrian Newey now holds major influence. Honda, with their 2026 engine supply deal, will demand a say in who gets that cockpit. Koji Watanabe made that crystal clear. They want competitive drivers, not legacy picks. Could Lance turn it around? Theoretically, yes. But based on his track record, the odds are long. This is the same guy who binned it on the formation lap in Brazil last year, crashed heavily in Singapore qualifying, and couldn't even respond to media speculation about his future without stirring internal drama. Let's not forget the infamous Qatar moment, when he shoved his trainer after another early exit. And most recently, that heated radio outburst at the Spanish GP. These aren't just bad weekends, these are warning signs. There's a fundamental question no one at Silverstone can avoid much longer. Is Lance Stroll actually a Formula One driver, or just someone who happens to be in a Formula One car? And if Aston Martin is serious about fighting at the front, that question has to lead somewhere. If change is coming, who should replace him? Verstappen? Russell? Sure, they're the dream scenarios. But if both stay loyal to their current teams, then what? Who's next in line to carry the Aston Martin flag? Yes, they have Alonso, and it's hard to believe he's pushing 44 given how sharp he still looks. But is he a long-term solution for a driver's championship, or just the bridge to something greater? The clock's ticking, and the path forward isn't obvious. So let's throw it to you. Should Aston Martin finally part ways with Lance Stroll? And if so, who should replace him? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.